Hello, it's Keith here, and this is lesson 11 of the platform-specific series of my 8086 programming tutorials. And I've got an oscilloscope above me, which probably means we're doing something with sound. And being as the title of the episode is Sound on the Wonderswan, we're probably doing sound on the Wonderswan. Well, the Wonderswan is another of these systems that uses digital sound, like the Super Nintendo, a bit more limited, but it's still very, very good, especially for a handheld. Basically, we have to create wave sound samples, and then we can alter the pitch of those to make some notes. Now, we have incredibly low standards, so we're going to be just making some simple square waves, and we're going to be writing the Chibi Sound driver, which is a little sound program I write for all of my systems. It takes a single byte, and it makes simple tones and distortion sounds. I use it for very basic games, making games that can be ported to lots and lots of systems very quickly, which is the name of the game, making tutorials for my website. So here is today's example. So we are taking a single byte as a parameter in AL there, and we're making tones and distortion sounds, and you can see from the oscilloscope above me they are basically square waves for the tones, and the distortion is also kind of square in a way. So that's what we're going to be doing. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, the first thing we need to do on the Wonderswan is we need to define an area of memory which is going to store the waveforms that we're going to be playing. Each of our sound samples is a 32 sample waveform that is 4 bits per sample. So basically 16 bytes will give us the 32 samples and define the sound effect that is being played on each channel. Now, we need to specify the memory address that we want to use, and in my example today we're going to use, if I just turn the oscilloscope off there, and we're going to be using D00 as the memory base for the waves that we're going to be playing. Now, to define this, we need to write this value to port 8F in hexadecimal, but we don't write the whole value, we actually have to bit shift it. So if we want to use the base of D00, we actually write hexadecimal 34. Basically, what we need to do is we need to bit shift the address we want to use to the right 6 times. So 34 in hexadecimal is the correct value for the memory address D00 in hexadecimal. Now, if we use that memory base, basically the following 4 clusters of 16 bytes will be the sample that each channel plays. So channel 1 will use memory address D00, channel 2 will use D10, channel 3 will use D20, and channel 4 will use D30. And to my knowledge, there's no way of switching between which sample is used. The Super Nintendo, you can set different instruments and have different addresses. I don't think the Wonderswan can do that, but we're only using one anyway. Now, we're going to be using channel 4 for all of our examples today, and the reason for that is simple. While all of these channels can work as a simple wave playing pitch, changing a channel, the channels 2, 3 and 4 have special functions. Now, channel 2 is defined as being a voice channel, and this means we can stream PCM data straight to the sound and create sort of more advanced sounds if we wish. Channel 3 can do sweep effects, which is where the pitch changes automatically over time. Channel 4 is the noise channel, and we're doing some distortion effects, so that was the most appropriate one for today's example. So it's channel 4 we're using in all cases. Now, with each of the channels, whichever one we decide to use, we basically have a pair of ports which define the pitch that we want to use, and we have an 11-bit pitch for each of them. We can specify a volume. We do in theory have stereo. We can specify 4 bits for left and 4 bits for right, and the maximum volume is 15. Some use 0 for the maximum volume, but the Wonderswan uses the far more sensible 15. We also can define the kind of noise we're using. In our case, though, we just need to turn it on and reset it with the E and R bits of this register here, this port here. So that's what we will need to do. We also need to turn our channels on though, and we use port 90 in hexadecimal for that. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 here, turn on the channels. That N bit also needs to be set if we want to enable the noise. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using a variety of these ports today to make our sounds. Now, Chibi Sound itself, which is my crude sound driver, takes a single value in AL, a single byte, and a value of 0 will turn the sound off. A value of 1 to 3F will create a quiet tone, a square wave in this case. 40 to 7F, that's where bit 6 is 1, is now a loud tone. And when the top bit, bit 7 is 1, we will get noise effects, so either quiet noise or loud noise, depending on bit 6. Now, in all cases, bits 0 to 5 are the pitch, and the smaller numbers are the higher pitch. So that's how Chibi Sound works, and that's what we're going to be programming. It's just a very simple example to get you started with making sounds. You know, maybe you want something far more impressive than that, and if you want to see how good Wonderswan sound can be, check out Beatmania on the Game Boy, and then check it out on the Wonderswan, because the Wonderswan version is frankly incredible compared to the rather embarrassing Game Boy version. Anyway, let's go over to today's example. Let's stop making fun of the Game Boy anymore. So this is the example we've got today. So in the Chibi Sound example, this is the code that we run to just test the wave playing. So we've got this initialization routine that will set up the port and define the wave sample, and then the Chibi Sound command here will just take the accumulator and will play the sounds as required. And we've already heard it once, but let's just hear it again. So here we go. Here is the sounds playing, and you can see as the value changes, the tone changes accordingly. Okay, that's enough of that noise. So that's what we're going to be coding up today. Let's have a look at the Chibi Sound driver, which is in the Wonderswan source folder. You can see it just there. This is the code that actually does the work. So the first thing we need to do is we need to initialize the hardware. So what we're doing first is we're defining the memory base for our wave samples. We're writing the value 34 in hexadecimal to port HF in hexadecimal. And as I say, that is D00 bit shifted by 6. We can test that if we just get our calculator up. And if we just put in D00 in hexadecimal here, and then we do a bit shift by 6 here, you can see that that is indeed 34 in hexadecimal. So that's the reason we're using that value. And of course, if you wanted to use a different memory address, you could just specify a different value. So that's what we're doing. So now we've defined our base. Now we're always using channel 4 for our sound, so we need to set a wave at D030, which is our wave, and we need to do 16 bytes or 8 words if we prefer, because we're going to work in words. So we're specifying our destination here, and we're going to create a square wave. So that is just a sequence of maximum volumes followed by a sequence of minimum volumes, and we're writing basically 2 words, 4 bytes each time. So that's 4 bytes, 8 bytes, 12 bytes, 16, and so we've created a nice square wave there. And if you want to try different wave shapes, or maybe maybe have the tone high or low for different periods of time, you can try that out and see the effect it will have. You can make different pitches of sound, different volume levels of sound as required based on that waveform there. So that's the waveform we're using. Now we only run Chibi Sound init once. That's just to get the hardware set up. Every other time is running this code here. The first thing we're doing is we're checking if the byte passed is a 0. If it is, we're going to turn off the sound. And the way we do that is very straightforward. We're just writing to port 90, which is the control port here. And if we write a 0 to this, this will turn off all of the channels. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So that is silencing the sound immediately, and then we just return. However, if we're not turning off the sound, we're going to back up AL for later. We're putting it into BL just because we want to use AL as a working variable. And what we're going to do next is we're going to turn on the speaker here. And so we're writing to port 91 here. That's just to enable the sound. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set the volume depending on bit 6 of our pass parameter. And if this is 1, we're going to be doing loud. If it's 0, we're going to be doing quiet. So we're first setting the AL register to the quiet equivalent here with a couple of bits of 0. Basically, if all the bits are 0, we would be silent. And then we're testing the bit. And if we want loud, we're setting all the bits to full volume there. We're then writing our new volume to port 8BH, which is the volume for channel 4 here. We're just doing that there, defining that volume there. And then once we've defined our volume, we're going to set our frequency. Now, the frequency is actually using 11 bits across 2 ports, but I've only got 6 bits here. We've only got 6 bits, so we're going to have to do some shifting and move them into a nice position within the 16-bit AX there to transfer them to the ports. Now, we write the low byte to port 86 in hexadecimal, and then we write the high byte to 87 in hexadecimal. And you could do more or less shifts depending on the kind of pitch range you would like. Okay, so that's got our pitch and our volume set, but next what we're going to do is we're going to decide if we're making a noise or not. So what we're doing here is we're testing the noise bit, and we're going to branch out to here if the noise is not set. Otherwise, we're going to continue here if the noise is set. So basically, if we're making a noise, we need to turn on channel 4, but we also need to set that N bit at the top, which enables the noise on channel 4. Now remember, only channel 4 can do this noise effect. We could create a noisy wave file and play that on the other channels, but the noise function is only available on channel 4. we're writing that to port 90H. That's turn the noise on. But there's another stage we need to do to enable the noise. We need to set bit 5 of port 8EH there. That will enable the noise, but we also need to reset the counter there. So we're setting bit 4 as well. That will start the noise up, and that will make our noise for us. Now, if we're not making a noise though, we go to this place here. Now this is almost the same. We're again controlling port 90, but this time only channel 4 is enabled, the noise is not. Before we enabled the noise, but we don't want the noise this time, so we're not enabling it. Now we don't need to do anything to port 8E because it has no effect if the noise is disabled. So that's what we've done there. And that's all that it takes to get this working. Now, if you wanted to use a different channel, the procedure is very straightforward really. You just need to change the address of the wave here. You would just need to write a new wave to one of the other ports, to one of the other addresses here. And then you would just need to change the ports you're using to set up the sound and the volume and things. You know, you've got all the ports listed here. So it's very straightforward to change this if you wanted to use other channels. And of course, you know, you would probably want to use multiple channels if you're doing something snazzy like music. I'm actually working on a more advanced music tutorial, which will probably come later on, probably a lot later on. Something I sort of comedically called Chibi Sound Pro, based on the Sound Blaster Pro. It does do basic sound, music and things, and it's designed to be multi-platform. So if you want to see stuff like that, you know, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you like the videos, YouTube recommends them to more people and I'm more likely to keep making them. And if you subscribe, you'll see all the amazing videos that are coming later, and you'll also see all the terrible videos I've probably got coming later, but I'm doing my best, so what can you say? Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this today. Go to the website, download the source code, and as I say, if you manage to make some amazing use of it, good for you. Thanks for watching today, and goodbye.